This is day 945. 945 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. And he didn't just vanish, something happened. And we are 945 days, uh, 900 of them a full on investigation. I would say a good 910 full on investigation every day, looking through things, calling people, writing letters, conducting these live streams, going over to Juarez way over 2 dozen times, maybe 3 dozen times, and having press conferences over there. Uh, we were having going into drug rehabilitation centers, soup kitchens, walking all over, doing a car parade, talking to whoever was willing to speak with us, and we found out a lot. Of course, we were in El Paso, and we conducted 4 to 6 rallies a week, talking to whoever would talk with us. Several stopped by, even the Texas Ranger stopped by and said, "Who's helping you on this one?" Um, yeah, so that was really interesting. We put in paperwork to the Department of Justice. Of course, our Department of Justice has been hijacked. It has been weaponized against us, and so our request that the FBI and the CID and the U.S. Army, especially because of what happened with Vanessa Guillen's case, what happened with Enrique Roman Martinez's case, what happened with Caleb Smither, what happened with Austin Hawk, really concerned us, and we wanted oversight. We wanted oversight of the CID and the U.S. Army. Of course, we know now that our 44 four-star generals and admirals have betrayed us. They've gone full-on treason, crimes against humanity, and because they are the military, they're the ones that have the power. They're the ones that have the fleets. They're the ones that have um, all of our most valuable assets, our sons and daughters, at their command, because the military is not a democracy, you see. And they have been funneling money into whatever, 5 audits, trillions of dollars of taxpayers' money missing, unaccounted for. So every program a failure. Every program. There's not one program a failure. And of course, anything that they try to do as far as protecting America has been a failure. And I wanted to say that oops, oh I can't that the Afghanistan, the Iraq wars, Syria, everything has been a soup sandwich, very messy soup sandwich. And not only that, I think it's been all deliberate by these 44 four-star. This is my opinion, because how can we be 32, $34 trillion in debt, and we can't win a war in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria? What is that all about anyway? Why are we even there? They just did their damage for so long, year after year after year, and our most valuable assets suffered in so many ways, and so that's definitely what we have found out in this terrible nightmare of trying to find our son, Richard Halliday, the missing soldier, who was a whistleblower to the Child Protective Service, turning in porn videos. We have been told that these porn videos, he was trying to expose money for child sex trafficking, child pornography, and And that makes sense. That makes sense with everything that we have. It fits like a glove. And why the U.S. Army is not willing to give us the paperwork um, for Richard. I mean, they're stonewalling us. We should be able to get Richard's legal paperwork, right? He was a minor after all. We should be able to get that. And they're stonewalling us. What are they trying to hide? What's in the legal paperwork? Is it his complaints? Is it his complaints? Is it why the IG were all over the barracks because of Halliday? We believe with our timeline that it is because he went over and above and outside the chain of command to make complaints to the Child Protective Services, trying to expose many for child sex trafficking. We know that it was had to do with the young mother. We know that, and of course she's a young mother, and yeah, he was smeared for that, y'all. See something, say something, and then he was severely and continuously retaliated against and smeared for trying to protect a young mother, trying to protect children, trying to not participate in some of the most diabolical crimes, um, the grooming of our children into sex cults. Um, yeah, I really, that's what I believe with all the information that we have. And why don't they want to give us? Why haven't they been transparent? We've been transparent with them. We're transparent every day. And I did want to mention, and it's on my phone, because I just was sent this, and it's from Germany. Um, this is I should have tried to put it up on the computer to share it, but it is a man that was arrested for a cold case murder in the military 21 years ago. So that's when we were there, right there in Hanau. Um, Before, I believe Hanau has been closed now, along with Heidelberg, where we were at. There, it's all closed now. They leveled all those buildings and everything and rebuilt. Um, but what is interesting about this is that the murderer was charged under the Military Extra uh, Territorial Jurisdiction Act, which gives a U.S. federal court's jurisdiction over crimes committed outside the United States. Well, that might come in very handy for our case, because we had a man walk into a Dollar General, and you know what was disturbing him? He didn't like Richard's flyers. Okay? He did not like Richard's flyer on the door. He did not like Richard's flyer on the freezer door and on the entry door. So there were two flyers, and he just worked around the block. Now, we didn't know this, um, but, so this was a normal place that he would stop and go in and get some things. And he told the cashier, you can take down the flyer. I'm with the FBI. I'm with the FBI. You can take down the flyer. That's a little confusing since he works around the corner, right? But as a FBI informant, it makes perfect sense. So, we pay out enormous amount of money to FBI informants. We have so many. And that is not comforting when you know that the FBI has been weaponized against the American people. Right? I was at January 6th. We know that the FBI has been weaponized over and over again against the American people, against the land, a land that they have taken an oath to defend. And so here he is, an FBI informant, walking in. That's what we believe. Walking into a Dollar General because he says he's with the FBI. Take down those flyers. Um, that missing soldier has been found. Really? And he didn't reveal everything right away. You have to watch the video. You can go to Find Richard Halliday on Facebook. I have it posted everywhere and even on Telegram. And you can see the video of this man going into the Dollar General, talking to the cashier, and saying, take down the flyer because I'm with the FBI and the FBI has found the missing soldier. They found him in Juarez, Mexico. And that's why this is really important because, we called the State Department and said, were the FBI looking for the remains of our son there in Juarez? And he said yes. He said yes. So this is two witnesses now, right? And then of course, we have another one, a third. So it is a huge possibility that the FBI is hiding the remains of our son. That is so criminal and so cold-blooded. So cold-blooded. But if we can get, I guess we'll have to retrench our system or get some kind of, I don't know where. See, this is the problem. We have the laws on the books. The laws on the books do not allow for child pornography. Okay? But why aren't these people being indicted for child pornography? We have it on our books that if we have a United States Army soldier that was killed over the border, and of course the FBI were looking for his remains over there, so they know about this extraterritorial jurisdiction. So yeah. So maybe that will help, and thank you so much for pointing that out, Team Find Richard Halliday. Thank you so much. I am, putting it on the table. With everything else that we have on the table, we have records upon records upon records. It's just it's piled up, and that's why we have at this time, with all the work that we have done, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours. That we have a pretty good view of what happened to Richard. And we even have a name of a murderer. Can you believe that? A suspected murderer. A name of a suspected murderer in the case of our son. We even have that. And yet we don't have a willing military because our 44 four-star generals and admirals are full out treasonous. Full out crimes against humanity, full out working for foreign and domestic enemies instead of the land and the people, instead of honoring their obligation to care for their most valuable assets. That means our volunteer sons and daughters. And General McConville, James McConville, he is the four-star general that and General Garrett retired now. But, they're total criminals. They are criminals at the highest level. And they get these sweet deals for doing these evil crimes. A lot of these contracting companies are all ran by retired generals. And it's really sad how the military-industrial complex has thrown our most valuable assets, our sons and daughters, out in the street, under the bus, overboard, whatever you want to say, for their own, I guess, advancement, and they have used our sons and daughters so wrong. Their legs have been blown off. They've been burnt. Their arms have been blown off. The suffering, the PTSD, the breakup of so many families, because of the stress of everything. And we expect that in the time of war. We expect that in time of great need to defend this country. We expect all of that. Okay, we expect the deployments. We expect to pull more than our weight, especially as family members staying at home. We understand that. But this is very, very bad leadership that causes more injury, that causes more risk, more harm than any kind of combat zone, than any kind of hostile zone. And they're marching us into war when they have already been attacking our service members so badly that they're shaking. They're actually, I've seen it with my own eyes. They are shaking. They are scared. They are angry. They do not respect their leadership. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've heard it. I've read it. They do not, so the leadership has a really big problem because they don't have esprit de corps. They do not have the respect of their service members. And so how are they ever going to march toward what they want to do so they can have their new contracts and their contract CEO buddies that are retired generals get their fair, they're not fair, but that they get their contracts, their very lucrative contracts and everything. It's really, they've really sold us out because we don't need them. And they sold us out with the COVID. They sold us out totally. It was the DOD, our dime, that brought forth that whole program. And it was a program. It was an operational order. It was an asymmetric warfare tactic. It was military operations used against us. The entire DOD was weaponized against themselves and also the land and the people and of the world, because we are in many, many different countries in the world. And I just want you to understand that, because this is why when you have a whistleblower like Richard, and you know that human trafficking is worth billions. Someone Google that real quick. It is worth billions of dollars, and that's why they want to keep it going, because they want to find a way that they can make easy money. And there's only a few ways you can make easy money, and that is you inherit it, you steal it, you funnel it. Funnel it would be stealing it, or you illegally earn it. You illegally earn it through deception. So they legalize crime. They legalize crime through these contracts and everything, and it's very, very big money. And it's but the cost is selling out our country. The cost is selling out our service members and using them terribly. And I just and the people and the land and the animals. Don't forget, everything is connected. So that's why we're having such a hard time getting the truth out about Richard, as far as getting some indictments and getting the whole file, the whole legal file, even Richard's legal counsel's memos to him sent to us. That should be a no-brainer, no problem when you are the very first CONUS DUS 1 missing soldier in U.S. Army history under the new Vanessa Guillen absent soldier flowchart. They should be helping us. And it's just like what's going on in Ohio. The similarities are amazing. So this government SOP is even conducting itself against the poor people in Ohio that they had their city blown up, their town blown up. It's and they weren't getting the help, but a place like Ukraine, that's beautiful. Ukraine is a very important area. It is a breadbasket. Okay, it's a historically the soil is very good there. Um, and so during World War II, because it was such a wealthy place, and a wealthy because of the soil there, and well, you can look at all the gold. I mean, you saw that in the visit right now with Zelensky. It's a very wealthy place, and that's where a lot of people congregated. But during World War II, the anybody that was undesirable, they put on trains and sent them to Kazakhstan, and that's how they even would shoot the men, put the wives and the children on the trains and take them to Kazakhstan, where it's very, very hard to grow anything in Kazakhstan. The soil is very, very bad. It's not a place you'd want to flourish, that's for sure. You can't flourish. It's very difficult. And how do I know this? Because when we lived in Heidelberg, the girls went to a little private Christian school, and I taught there. I volunteered. I did it just for the tuition of the girls. That was my pay. And I taught there in that little German school. And most of the families were very big families that were German German families that were from the eastern area that got caught behind the Iron Curtain. And when the Iron Curtain came down, Kohl, the German Prime Minister Kohl, he opened the door to these Germans, and a lot of them came to Heidelberg. They came to Heidelberg as a church, and so and they had I know Frau Haselbach, she had I think 11 children, and I said, Frau Haselbach, is it difficult for you with 11 children? And she goes, this was her answer. She said, in Kazakhstan, yes. In Heidelberg, not a problem. And I was like, wow, that was a great answer. She had beautiful, beautiful children. And they were going to this school. And so I asked her, how did she even get to Kazakhstan? And of course, there were more than just her family. There were several families there that we became friends with. And they would tell us the stories about World War II, how they came to Kazakhstan, that they were originally in the Ukraine area. So, which was a much easier place to live than Kazakhstan. So here they are trying to have a war in a very fertile area. It's kind of like California. California, I think, is second only to the Nile Basin as far as fertile soil goes. That's why so much growing happens there in California, and that's why California was so desirable to infiltrate, to take over, just like anything else. And, it's nothing new in history. It's nothing new to have these generals become treasonous, to have this infiltration inside our military. What is really the problem here is that we have no mechanism to change things. See, the mechanism is through the media, but the media has been taken over too and censor. So we do have social media. We do have these live streams and many are happening, and I'm getting some very positive feedback lately, except from the JAG officer there at El Paso through my husband. Um, and he's just like stonewalling. They don't want to. Matter of fact, he even is kind of like starting a little tit for tat. And why do we need to have a tit for tat with a JAG officer that's supposed to be helping us, right? Um, he should gladly say, I am sending this to you right away. This will help you find your son. All right? They should do that. But they're hiding something and they're not doing that. So let's look at some of the questions people will have. Let me go to my Facebook. And please share all of this. I just posted on TikTok 2 videos. Please share those. Everything helps to get this out. And we are growing. 4 comments. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you so much. We will get justice for Richard Halliday. God knows what happened, and he sees the devil's work that hopefully soon will be revealed to the American people. Absolutely. I'm totally sad inside, worried about the USA. I'm always sad when never seeing Richard found and others missing, not found. It's totally tears in my heart. I know. I've been crying every day. And I told that to Sammy. Sammy goes, I know you cry sometimes. I said, no, you don't. You don't understand, Sammy. I cry every day. I just found this amazing picture of Richard today. Let me see if I can share this. Let's see, where am I at? Oh, I'm not even on my, hold on. Oh, yeah. So people are starting to get it. Here, let me show you this. I thought this was really interesting. Is this on? Oops.
Accumulated in 2 years has made, before, debt is weakness. So just on the amount of debt that they've accumulated in 2 years has made America a great deal weaker.
And you saw the CBO numbers, what, another $10 trillion in debt in a short period of time? Looking down the line at $50 trillion in debt, debt to GDP ratio now, over 100%. It's normally about 46%.
It's at 125% right now. And so, listen, they know what they're doing. The people inside the White House, they're smart. They're trying to tank the American economy. They're trying to destroy America because they hate America. You don't do this for any other reason, but that is true.
You think they're doing this on purpose?
100%.
Why?
They want to transform America, right? This is a transformational presidency. Barack Obama started it. Joe Biden is going to finish it. The middle-class Americans be damned. This is about an elite ruling class, a globalist idea.
So that's the reason why that we have all this energy, all these resources here, but they'd rather import 3 million barrels of oil from Venezuela a day.
And batteries from China.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's starting to come out everywhere where and see, that could not happen. The debt could not happen if we had loyal 44 four-star generals. This right here, and then, they preach to us about, we have a soldier dying, and I'm like, my son is missing. Would you stop the insanity and let's go find him, and look at, they had bad water at William Beaumont. People don't remember that. The media didn't cover it so much. So that's the Army Hospital, the medical center right there at Fort Bliss. They had soldiers that were bold enough. This is so bold, okay? with a senior NCO, with a warrant officer, drink grog in the field during a field exercise. You just don't do that, right? You don't drink grog. Grog is all kinds of alcohol mixed together. And they got sick because in that sealet, which is part of like a missile, there was antifreeze. So they got sick. And that happened while we were there. And then you have all of, I know this from Juarez, people that used to work as singers and dancers and waitresses and things like that in the tourist business there at Juarez in Mexico. They had to work in the sex industry then. They really had to work in the sex industry. Okay? That's not healthy. You know, this is the stuff I was trying to tell them. That's not healthy. Locking our soldiers in the barracks that are flush with weapons, having parties every day and bringing girls in and having all the illegal drugs and the rape problem right there, big in the center, and the PTSD problem right there in front of our eyes with the suicide rate and everything. And, that's not healthy. And now here, this was from the USS Abraham Lincoln, and the leadership's like, oh, it's okay, it's okay. They can't tell the truth because they're hijacked, because the 44 four-star generals and admirals have ordered them to cover it up, not to care about the health of our most valuable assets. I mean, it's all coming out now. And we need the death penalty put back on the table, seriously back on the table to discuss it. Because we have high crimes and misdemeanors, high crimes against humanity that have killed way more than what their propaganda narratives were telling us to try to make us afraid and fearful to lockstep to the Masta. They have to order us around and we're just supposed to go and not even ask questions and say, wait a minute, the numbers don't show, or there's other treatments out there. It's crazy. Okay, yeah, here's Richard. It says 44 four-star generals and admirals, what are you doing? Child sex trafficking and porn are not okay. They're not okay. Here he is. I love this picture. So I added that on. My mom found that picture. So this is a good one from Ohio.
Pete Buttigieg shows up this morning very early.
Who is Pete Buttigieg? Really, seriously.
Do you see him as the secretary?
I'm glad he was here on not his private time. Because yesterday he was on his private time and couldn't be interviewed.
Yeah, that's our leaders. They're not there. And the only reason why, secretly,
The Daily Wire testified in the Tennessee State House earlier this year. He was there to convince lawmakers to end the castration and genital mutilation of children in the name of gender ideology. Well, it worked. The Tennessee legislature has just passed a bill that will do that, in part due to the efforts of Matt Walsh. Congratulations. Make a good case, and sometimes it prevails.
Hallelujah.
That's it for us tonight.
So, don't do chemical castration of our children. Also, do not groom them into your puppy dog cults, colonel, captain, multitudes of military members that participate in rearing puppies, grooming our service members when they come in to join this doggy cult so they can rear them. It's really disgusting. This was a leader too, and He stole women's clothing and wore it. I mean, y'all, get your own clothing, Get your own clothing. Um, Black Hawk helicopters on the battlefield in Ukraine, and nobody knows how. Okay, yeah, interesting. Convicted singer R. Kelly gets 20 years in Chicago case for what? For sex trafficking and racketeering. He couldn't make it off of his singing money, so it's so lucrative to do the sex trafficking and racketeering. And the military's already had that number. They've already had that number. Also, it says here the grand jury foreman in the case against Trump promotes witchcraft. This is nothing new and not a surprise. And I had to post this up because at the beginning, when Richard first went missing, so many people would call and say there are witches. And even Richard's first sergeant's wife is a proclaimed witch. And it just sounds so weird, but there's so many witches, y'all. I mean, they delve in these spells, and some of them think it's white witchcraft, and it really is something I think that we need to be concerned about. This is also something very interesting.
Well, there's the lie. It wasn't a controlled burn, it was an uncontrolled burn. See, I'm a chemical engineer as well as a top health and safety guy. I've got undergraduate and graduate degrees in chemical engineering.
You're the first actual expert that we've gotten to speak to. In your opinion, why do you believe that it was an uncontrolled burn? Why are you using that terminology when so far everywhere else we've seen that it was a controlled burn?
You can go to a place called West Liverpool downriver, and that's where they burn hazardous waste. And in a hazardous waste situation, they very carefully control the temperature and the amount of oxygen so that they get complete combustion, right? It's time, temperature, and amount of the air-fuel ratio. There's no controlling of the amount of air that gets in it. That's why you saw all that soot. So it's not a controlled burn, because a controlled burn would have to be like in a furnace or in your car or some system where you control the fuel, in other words, the vinyl chloride and the amount of oxygen. So they didn't do that. So it's an uncontrolled burn. One of the worst ways to determine exposure in general is to smell it, because if you smell the odor, guess what? You're already exposed, right?
How long have you been doing this?
30 years. I'm in most of the big named lawsuits as the exposure expert. It's a privilege. I get called in to try to figure some of this stuff out. So that's my job always is.
Which is really interesting, because that controlled burn, we understand it in our family. And the reason why is because we had a Kachelofen in Ireland. Our German friend built us a Kachelofen in our home there, and it would take wood, and it would control burn this wood to get the most heat from it. That would keep our house nice and toasty, warm and dry, with the least amount of soot. So we would only have to take the ashes out. And if anybody's ever had a wood burning stove, solid fuel stove, solid fuel fireplace, whatever, they understand what I'm saying. But we didn't have to take ours out for 4 to 5 weeks at a time. 5 weeks easy would go by. We wouldn't have to take out our ashes yet, because of the control burn in our Kachelofen. So I knew exactly what he was talking about. It controlled the oxygen going in, and it was a closed system. So yeah, this was not a controlled burn. Definitely. That was, their narratives. They take advantage of the lack of experience, the lack of knowledge, and our goodwill. They take advantage. And look at what they did to Richard. They just smeared him so bad. And, if they would have understood our family, they could have maybe gotten away with some light smears or whatever. Because, you're a young man. Okay, whatever. But they went full force. And because they went full force on Richard, it was so insane. It was so ridiculous. It was so unrealistic. It was so in silico. It was so fake. It was such a cover-up. It screamed it. We understood it. that, there's just no way Richard could have even, the time is not there, and all the phone calls we had, and no, it just didn't make sense. He didn't have a vehicle for the longest, no experience, So, but they tried to smear him, and they even used a senior leader sent to the military police guard mount to talk about Richard. And Anthony Swafford, military police there, El Paso, he's really a hero for exposing this. Just young guy, angry, very angry, and very gullible, because instead of talking to us and figuring out if he was being lied to or not, he didn't do that. He was very scared. He was very angry, very defensive, and so he really didn't ask us a lot about our son, and ask Hannah about our brother. He just believed the smears. He believed the false witness, and false witness is a huge sin, a huge sin. It's so damaging. And so the military, and he was military police, so they got in front of the military police there in El Paso and smeared Richard. And you know what he did, this military police? He's so gullible. But he's like, I'm a dad and I have children and I want to protect them. So don't try to find that soldier. Why would you help find that soldier? And I don't repeat what they claimed Richard did, because it's all a lie, and we don't need to repeat the narratives that are lies. And Richard is a yellow Interpol. And hello, Anthony Swafford. Richard is a yellow Interpol. 80 subpoenas and warrants. Now, if you had undergone the scrutiny of 80 subpoenas and warrants, would you come up a yellow Interpol? Not wanted at all. Red Interpol is if you're wanted for any little thing. Richard's not wanted for anything. He's a yellow Interpol, which means a missing person. And so, Richard has done really, really well. It was a whistleblower, really sweet, nice guy. And Anthony Swafford, you missed out on that. He's a very sweet, really nice guy. And he cares about children. He doesn't like child sex trafficking. He doesn't think it should ever exist. He doesn't like child porn. He doesn't think it should ever exist. He doesn't even believe in primary free will, where you just think that you can do whatever you want. That you can just do whatever you want, whatever your lust wants you to do that day. That's not what Richard believes in. I can tell you that right now. And so I did post this. I was in this discussion about the Trinity. And let me read this to you. I think it's very interesting. It says here, the question is, what are the one and the many? Right? Because a one-man army doesn't work, right? A one-man army doesn't work. The problem of the one and the many is the basic problem of philosophy. And it is this: which is more important, the oneness of things or the manyness of things? In other words, is the individual important or the state or the unit, right? The unit, the brigade. What's more important, marriage or the individuals in the marriage? The group or the individuals, the citizens or the state? Now, historically, the answers have swung from one to the other, from the one to the many. And you have had a swing from statism or totalitarianism to anarchism. And most of the briefly good periods in history have been just the midway point between the two, as the historical movement has veered wildly from one to the other. And Greek society, which is very much exalted in our textbooks, was nothing but sheer disorder as it swung from dictatorship to anarchy. And I know that when our daughters were doing homeschool and they were in a course called Great Books, and they were reading the writings of some of the most famous Greeks during the ancient Greek time, they were like, "Oh my gosh, this is so degenerate. This is so bad. This is so bad." And I'm like, "Yep, yep." And we don't even know that, and they really exalt them, and they're not to be exalted. Now, the only answer to the problem of the one and the many that you find anywhere is in the scriptures, in the doctrine of the Trinity. Philosophically, this is spoken of as the doctrine of ontological Trinity. The doctrine of the Trinity gives us the equal ultimacy. Okay, so that one individual soldier like Richard is so important, right? And the many is important. The unit, like what they did to Austin Hawke, the one, they plea dealed, but that at the same time was kicking every service member, the entire military, right in the gut, right in the teeth, because they were green lighting vicious, violent crime for any whistleblower. That's what they did with that case with the plea deals. Because in Austin Hawke's case, it was a win because they had everything. They had the blood, they had the weapon, they had the text messages, everything. They had the witnesses, they have everything. And but the military decided to kick every service member right there in the teeth, right there in the gut. They didn't have their six at all. And then they wonder why their service members don't respect them and don't honor them. And in Austin Hawke's case, they didn't. There's many stories that I can tell you that show that the junior enlisted were not impressed with their leadership. Let's just say that. And there's been more deaths because of that. More deaths. Okay, so that the oneness and the manyness, the threeness, are equally ultimate. So that's why people go, well, who's God the Father, and who's God the Son, and who's God the Holy Ghost? And they are... God the Father is not more than God the Son, and God the Son is not more than God the Holy Spirit. They're all equally ultimate, but they're not to be confused, but they're one God. And, that's hard to wrap your head around, but the more you think about it, the more you think about the one and the many, the more you read scriptures, the more you sing hymns. I think singing hymns, we have some of the best hymn writers in the Anglican Church historically, and they're just absolutely amazing. With the Methodists, Presbyterians, getting these kind of philosophies, getting these points across. I think, you just have to be patient with yourself to learn it. And once you learn it, you have a skip in your walk, that's for sure. So it is not the citizen or the state, but the citizen and the state. Not marriage or the individuals, but marriage and the individuals within the marriage as equally important. The institution, in other words, as well as those who comprise it, the group and the individual, the unit, that's esprit de corps. Leave no soldier behind. Esprit de corps is the one and the many. The one and the many, the Trinity is, you can't get around it, okay? You cannot deny it. It is the undeniable. And in this case, it's very clear, using it to see what's going on in the military. Right now, we have 44 four-star generals that believe in the oneness. They don't believe in the many. And that's why they're totalitarian. That's why they're treasonous. That's why they're looking after themselves, because they're not looking after the many. And so they're not Trinitarian. It's as simple as that. The Trinity is very, very important for the success of any society. So, and only the doctrine of the Trinity, philosophically, is able to answer the problem of the one and the many, because the only answer you can give to the problem that will preserve society is this. First, you have to have a transcendental source that is something above and beyond this world, and that is God. Second, you have to have the equal ultimacy of the one and the many. And of course, the doctrine of the Trinity is that equal ultimacy. So only there do you have an answer to the basic problem of philosophy. And this is a point that I really wanted to read to everybody, and that is, now the world regards anything that is decisive, that has a standard, as cruel. Whenever, which is generally most of the time, the world wants to blur distinction. And so when you want to be decisive, this is the right thing to do, then they tell you that you're cruel. And I got a lot of hate in the vile and vulgar messages by just saying it is right for us to look for our son and to get these questions answered, because they'll help us to find our son. And they didn't like that. So here's a picture in our backyard there and at Drum Row. Yeah. So if you have any questions, let me read these again. I'm totally sad. Oh yeah. I don't think, I think I have some good news, and maybe by the end of this week I'll have even better news. But I think that the pendulum has definitely started to come back, and people are starting to regain their sanity. And I've gotten a lot of positive feedback lately, which is really good feedback. And this is in the face of reading Captain Park's letter again, demanding, really, it is a demand, because you're talking about a missing soldier. They've never had any urgency in Richard's unit to find Richard. And we have urgency, and we can't get the help because I guess we're not Trinitarian. The one is as important as the entire military. And to do the right thing in finding our missing soldiers, in treating them well, you will regain that Medal of Honor ethos, that no soldier left behind, that army strong, the esprit de corps, and it will benefit everybody. Nobody ever expects any of our government agencies to be perfect. Okay, I'm tell you that we all expect some corruption, but total treason, total crimes against humanity, the disregard for a missing soldier. So much so that you use, not even disregard, the campaign against finding, the campaign to sabotage finding a missing soldier is so egregious, because we have been the victims of asymmetric warfare tactics and military operations to sabotage our search, our investigation for our son. And that is just crazy. That's just so cold-blooded. Yeah. So please get this out there. And if you've been paying attention, all of the different problems that we have faced, and say to know these things is to turn the tide, to pressure the military, to pressure the Department of Justice, to pressure the FBI, because we absolutely, it is a huge, huge, huge probability, possibility that the FBI is hiding the remains of our son. And so, yeah, reach out to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, because the Mormons are all over this case. They're part of this case. They're involved in this case. And that would be a great help too. So, Mitt Romney should definitely come to help. His family has stakes all in that area. His father was born at Colonial Juarez. They have to go over through that border all the time to go to the temples that are on the Mexican side. There's no temples built on the Texas-New Mexico side. So that's all very important information. And, just get that out so that there will be knowledge out there. People will understand that Richard's still missing, and that they will come and help, be that light shining in the dark, because this has been a very dark time in our lives, not knowing where our son is. Thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing. If you have any questions, just shoot me a message or call 941-677-0060. There is a $150,000 reward for information leading to finding Richard, and we would really be grateful to so many people. We have so many people on our list that have given us amazing information that has helped us, including the CID special agent leaking Richard's file to Leilani Hart, who was active duty under Major General Clem Coward, Richard's commander, who smoked Richard, trying to sabotage all this, I believe. And then also Leilani Hart has a son, Dallas Hart, also served under Major General Clem Coward. So, yeah, he has a lot to answer for too, and get that information out too. And then nothing can top this. Nothing. The Command Sergeant Major, Jake Jakovitz, telling us that he didn't even know he had a missing soldier on his rolls. Even the theater meeting with Delta Battery and I believe it was Alpha could top that statement. Yeah. Okay, everyone. Good night, and thank you so much.